Hello everyone, my name is TheMadScorpyon. While I may be a little bit late in terms of the release day, I have a video here that is basically just some ways to improve your farming of the Dawning, or otherwise learning what the Dawning itself is in case you have not touched it or have never touched it, period. So the basis of this event is essentially there is no activity, but there is additional earnings from activities in the form of ingredients as well as essence that you can combine into cookies that you then deliver to all the various vendors throughout the world, including ones out in the many different planets and the tower. And with that, occasionally you'll get a gift in return that will of course allow you to farm out some specific Dawning weapons, enhancement materials, and a variety of other things. Now, per the usual, there is a title that is guildable, as well as just a general event pass. I'll go in that a little bit afterwards, but I'll go into the event itself and the basics to it. Now, right at the start, you'll be told to visit Ava, as you always do. Now, this is one of those events you don't need to wear anything different. You can run your full loadout and look as usual as you do, in case you want to be like my hunter and look as dark and brooding as you can on a cheery glitter-filled holiday. Regardless, once you visit her, you will earn the holiday oven, which will live in your inventory right beside your tonic capsule. Now, I will advise you might want to clear out some space in your consumables, because every cookie you make takes up an individual slot. So keep that in mind in case you have a rather large inventory. If you bake in bulk, they will end up going to the postmaster. Now, there is a nifty little thing that you can earn per day is the Boon of Friendship. Basically, it is just a consumable you can earn at random. It grants a Dawning reward to your fire team upon completion of a playlist activity, with additional rewards based on the number of boosts active. Lasts until the reward is earned. Only one Boon of Friendship can be activated per player. So, I do believe you can stack these up for a few times, so if you just want to log in, claim it, wait for a day you're farming out, you can just, use it to farm. But I digress. The holiday oven itself, it is pretty simple in its idea. So right here, there is the Discovered Recipes tab, where you can see all the cookies you can make from start to finish all the way to the left and right. I will not describe each one of them at the same time. There is recipes you can find out for yourself, and there's many guides on there, so I'll just kind of scroll through right here as I'm talking, just so you can have an idea of what every single cookie makes. Now, again, keep in mind, while they are individually their own consumables tab, they do stack on each other, I do believe. So if you want to farm out a single cookie over and over again, you can, of course, do that. Now, in respect, all of these cookies, they only require one of each ingredient, as well as, at the start, 15 essence. But I might actually recommend with the Dawning, the first thing you should do, in case you can't right off the bat, is actually crafting every single cookie at least once and discovering them all, because once you discover them all, you'll be able to masterwork them, which reduces the cost of essence of Dawning. Now that I say that, let me go into everything you will need for making the cookies. Now, at the bottom here, you will see the two ingredients tabs, the first being the essential enemy ingredient. Basically, this is what you get for just defeating an enemy at any point. And of course, there is Vex Milk, there is Ether Cane from Fallen, there is Cabal Oil from Cabal, Chitin Powder from Hive, as well as Taken Butter from Taken, and Dark Ether Cane from Scorn, one for every one of the factions around. Then the next tab is essentially the how you kill them, which they do list the how and essentially what you can get from them. Like this one, Delicious Explosion, is everything from grenade launcher or anything that explodes. Sharp Flavor, anything with swords, and I do believe glaives are counted. Then you have a variety for elementals, that's, solar, electric, or I should say arc, and null, the Flash of Inspiration for generating orbs, personal touch for melee kills, the perfect taste for precision damage, bullet spray for automatic weapons, finishing touch for finishers, balanced flavors for bows, snipers, scouts, and pulses, multifaceted for rapid defeats, superb texture for super kills, as well as the last one for basically dark damage. For that full list, that is every ingredient that is available to be earned from how you kill, which they can be pretty well farmed as long as depending on your loadout. Then you combine all of that with the last bit, Essence of Dawning. Unfortunately, this is one of those events that still has a currency that you have to farm out activities for to earn and farm out the essence, and that is a bit that you have to deal with throughout this whole thing. But there's a few ways to make it easier, and the first way is actually bounties available at Ava. So once you progress through the tasks, you will be able to earn daily and weekly bounties, which the weekly ones are important, because if you go about the event at random, with each weekly bounty you complete, you'll have enough essence once you masterwork it to make 3 cookies just for completing a bounty, and some of them are exceptionally simple, like this one, which is just killing with the snowballs you'll find throughout the world during the dawning. Then there is the daily ones, which while they don't reward essence, they do reward random ingredients. So at the same time, if you don't have any sort of targeted farm or are just looking for extra ingredients, this one is certainly an option. They're pretty simple. There's nothing activity specific really. It is literally just how you kill them or what you kill. And then there is the additional bounties, which can be handy if you're going for just general cookies and aren't delivering to anyone specific, because the additional bounty will give you a random cookie delivery bounty for anyone on the list. And when you actually create it, you will of course get bright dust and random ingredients, as well as Dawning Spirit. Now, the important thing about Dawning Spirit, that is kind of a second seasonal currency, that is what you use here in the Essential Upgrades tab, which allows you to earn more anything, whether it's boons, additional ingredients, weapons, perks, essence, or upgrades to your snowballs to be more powerful in the whole event. That is also there. But keep in mind, there is the Dawning Focusing, which does require a little bit of Dawning Spirit in addition to the gift in return. Now, if you don't know, occasionally when you give a cookie to a vendor, you occasionally get a gift in return, which is something that just exists in your consumables that you open yourself. And when you open that, it can literally be quite literally anything. It could be a weapon, it could be enhancement material, it could be a piece of blue armor for all I know, but it kind of it varies randomly. I've gotten a lot of upgrade cores, enhancement materials, or enhancement cores, so it could be quite literally anything. It could be mementos, but from that respect, that is the basics to how Dawning works in its full entirety. Now, there is, of course, the event challenges, and I'll go for that in a little bit, but I will give you my personal recommendations for how to farm out essences, at least based on your team composition. Now, if going throughout the world, if you actually manage to have all 6 people in a fire team, I, of course, would take you to that, well, that's the wrong place, the Dreaming City, and farm out the starting encounter of Last Wish, the Kali, because that is an incredibly formidable boss. It's very close to the start, so it's incredibly redoable. So if you have 6 people and want to just do raids over and over again and don't care about which one, I would say the first encounter in Last Wish is the best choice for farming out, because it will reward you handsomely, and it can be done in few minutes at a time. Now, that is, again, if you have 6 people. However, if you only have 3, I would actually keep to the Dreaming City and do the usual method in a few ways. First being the Shattered Throne. If you go to Duel Inkaru and load up the checkpoint, that of course rewards a handy amount of essence for you. And again, pretty infinitely farmable in terms of the thing. Now, keep in mind, this isn't like the Pinnacle Drop. You can do any activity over and over and over again, and it'll keep giving you essence. So if you want to farm out Shattered Throne, that is an option. Now, the alternates that people I know always go back to is always the story beats. If you don't know, with the various story missions, if you actually do the Legendary campaign, supposedly there are some good checkpoints in the Legendary campaign, like the Witch Queen and Lightfall, that you can run back to back to back, and it will actually also reward you some handy essence. Now, keep in mind that it is also multiple people required. So with that, I would recommend that if you have a targeted farm, you could just do dungeons, you could do that, Legendary campaign checkpoint farming, that is options. But for the solo person, I would say there's 2 main routes to do it that isn't incredibly, I'd just say, mind-numbing. Because you could just run strikes over and over again, but that does get quite dull after some time. So something I would recommend if you want a more dedicated farm is either visiting the EDZ or Nessus, because those are 2 of the planets nowadays that always have a public event going, especially the EDZ. Because right now the Sludge is on its way, and I imagine there's a few that were active I just missed on the menu. But essentially, while you're waiting for this public event to spawn, and once eventually it does happen, by the time that's done, there's likely 2 other ones that are either cooking or one that's about to happen and one that will happen in a few minutes. The EDZ always has public events. I believe if you manage to do a heroic, it rewards 5 essence per completion, and you can dart throughout each of the locations and activities and continue doing public events without waiting for very much time. Now, in that same respect though, I would also say an alternate method is actually one that I was kind of surprised in the Vanguard playlist, as well as Onslaught's with the same thing with Onslaught Salvation. Now, it may seem small, but you earn an essence per wave as you go through this activity. So that means if you go for a full 50 waves, you can get 50 essence of Dawning entirely throughout. Now, keep in mind, I would have tested the 50, but sadly, my team absolutely threw when I was finding out the info, so I don't know how much you get for finishing wave 50. But even if it is just one, spending a time doing 50 waves of Onslaught is a handy farm for ingredients. If you don't care about what, you just need to load out a little bit and you can earn everything. And then you can spend each wave going through, earning an essence per wave. Some of these waves can only last a single minute if you have a dedicated team. especially with solos. Occasionally you just get absolute ringers that will blast through Onslaught entirely. So honestly, I would certainly recommend Onslaught for the solo player if you wish to farm out kills, because if you're doing public events, there will be a lot of other people doing it, and it's kind of hard to get, I would say, the specific ingredients you want from enemies or activity kills. But with Onslaught, there are such dense amounts of enemies that it would be more than easy to farm out ingredients in addition to the essence required. So, like I said, if you do Onslaught all the way to 50 waves, you earn a essence per wave, so you can get up to 50 from a single activity, keep the farm of ingredients, and even at the end, you could get a big drop. For all I know, once you finish, you could get 20 essence, which would make it well worth it. But my tips aside, it is time to go over what you need to do in order to complete these seals and titles. So at the start, there is, of course, the introduction quest that you have to do, as well as amateur baking and a few others. These were auto-completed because they were bugged, so they are free completes right off the bat. The next is Ice Cold Combat for defeating combatants with snowballs anywhere in the Soul system. Literally just chuck a snowball. That's all you gotta do. Then there's also baking cookies in the Dawning Oven. This is just baking in total. It doesn't have to be for an individual person. You can bake at 150 times over if you so wish, but there it is. The next is Shopping Spree, which is basically just complete all the Dawning upgrades. Spend all the Dawning Spirit you can at Ava, and she will complete this for you. Then the Expert and Adept are the other ones that I mentioned are all completed. Then there's Deep Freeze. This one is a lot easier for comparison between Festival Lost because this is just elemental damages mostly. Deep Freeze for stasis kills, that'll get you the new Stay Frosty Pulse as well as the Zephyr's Sword. And then there is defeating combatants with Strand or Guardians as well, that will earn you the Glacioclasm Fusion Rifle. Defeating combatants with solar weapons or abilities will give you the Avalanche LMG. The Thunder Snow ability for defeating enemies with arc weapons or ability will give you the Albedo Wing Glaive. And lastly, the new weapon for defeating combatants with void weapons or abilities will give you the Mistral Lift, which of course all give event tickets for the event card. Then lastly, basically the usual runners of ritual activities. Vanguard Ops or Dares of Eternity spawn snowballs by defeating combatants with weapons or abilities and valid activities. And then Crucible or Gambit, and that will complete Star Baker for the general title. Now, if you need to finish Star Baker in terms of gilding, of course, there is some things you have to do. For defeating combatants with snowballs, I imagine it is quite a lot because percentages are always more annoying than just pure numbers. Legitimately, it would be easier if it said 300 as opposed to a percent, because I would actually know how much I need to go get. But then there is giving Dawning Gifts to vendors, basically just cook cookies and deliver them. And then there is the Joyous Spirit for spending Dawning Spirit. I didn't think I was this close already, but I guess I'm already up to 460. It's possible this is leftover from last year, but regardless. And lastly, defeating combatants with Dawning Weapons. Basically, if you want to make it quick, get a weapon in every slot and just use their weapons for a while, and this will be done relatively quickly. But with that, that is the tops and bottoms of the Dawning and how it works this year. It's pretty similar to how it's always been, which pretty is an understatement. It's 95% similar to how it's always been. Basically, just get the upgrades, farm out the weapons, do bounties to increase your effectiveness in terms of farming materials, get essence how you can, and depending on your fire team size, mix up the how, and it should be pretty easy to finish out this activity. It might just be the tiniest bit mind-numbing. With that, my name is TheMadScorpyon. I will see you in the next video.